Jerry Pippin. KPIX.
Well, we'd like for you to go over to our website, jerrypippin.com, and check us out if you'd like to read the program information, things like that. And if you'd like to listen to the show on the web tonight, simply go over to the Windows Media Player, bring that up on your website, and click down to Oldies Radio, and you'll see KBIX Radio there, and click it on, and we'll be here with you on the web. Our time now is 9:59, and here he is, Glenn Pitts, and he's live from Stockton, California. Anyway, Glenn made a fast trip to Sacramento, but you're back home, and we're ready to roll with some old-time, really forgotten oldies music tonight.
Oh, yeah, we have some really neat stuff tonight, and we don't know how many people's listening out there. We're having to hook up different ways tonight.
Well, I maybe a few people will email us and let us know they made it. A lot of people come through the Windows Media Player anyway.
Yeah. Now, that'd be nice if people kind of drop us a little line there and let us know, hey, we're out here, we're still listening.
We'll get ready to start with the show here. What's our first one going to be?
Well, we're going to start out with the 4 Preps this evening, and this is off the Purple.
This is special programming from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Remembering Jerry Pippin. Jerry Pippin was born in 1939 on this date, and he would have been 79. He passed in 2015. What follows is a number of things here. We started off with the Jerry Pippin theme song from his show on the radio station KBIX in Oklahoma, the very red state of Oklahoma. And what follows is a discussion Jerry and I had prior to President Obama addressing the nation about the Affordable Care Act, which later became Obamacare, and the public option, which Jerry advocated for, preached, whatever you want to use it, a term you want to use, evangelized, etc., as the proper vehicle, single payer, and elements of single payers. He said when we tried to get them into the Affordable Care Act, problems, the same problems we have today is with the Congress. Very good article, and we'll append it from the Los Angeles Times about people, the people advocating for what is now Medicare for All. The Rand Corporation called an appropriate brand name, but it means different things to different people. But any facet of it would be an improvement if they can move elements of the Affordable Care Act to Medicare and expand it beyond people that are 65, disabled, etc. And that in itself would be a very good start. Of course, obviously, to expand it, you would need to expand funding. It would be through FICA deductions, such as Medicare, but also at the same time, additional funds would be needed. If you can move funds from, say, the military, billions of dollars there, you could fund it, because any type of healthcare program that's nationwide on the front side will cost more, and healthcare will be less on the backside. One of the things that has happened here, we have the exchange, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, a little rocky situation when it started out, but that was because the contracts were given to people that literally did not know what they were doing. In each successive year, more and more people go to the exchange to get their insurance. Some states still run their own exchanges, others the Affordable Care Act, but under this present administration of D.J. Trump, they've cut the time that people can enroll. This idea is trying to bleed the Affordable Care Act, less advertisement involved in it, but the word has gotten out with the people. Now it's incumbent on the new Congress, which will be run by the Democrats. We're not sure who the leader will be, more likely Nancy Pelosi, to craft a national health care program called Medicare for All, and send it to the Senate. And depending on what happens or what does not happen, it will be an issue in the 2020 campaign, no doubt about it. So this is the setting here, and we will end this broadcast with a poem called Rainbow Bridge. It is about the passing of, the poem was written a long time ago, we're not sure who wrote it, but passing of a dog, a person's greatest friend. This was the 25th of February 2012. On a usually bright, sunny morning in February, my best friend Buster passed away. He had been struggling with the ravages of old age, but many times displayed a spark of life, which made him seem like a puppy. Nonetheless, Jerry had a number of these dogs, and Buster was a second. I think there was a dog named Breezy, and then, of course, there was a Buster, period. And his late friend, who Jerry utilized, Jerry Wilhite, brought his attention to the classic poem Rainbow Bridge, and you will hear Rainbow Bridge read by Jerry Pippin. Our call-in number is 646-915-9182. Again, that is 646-915-9182 for those that want to call in. We'll be on various networks, and this will air firstly on the Blog Talk Network, which that has a call-in facility there, and if you want to take advantage of that, very good, and we'll then incorporate it for the rest of the networks, YouTube, etc., across the board there. In Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, and one of the newer networks out here, the iHeart Network. We appreciate our viewers there, our listeners actually, that listen to us worldwide. This will do it for our part of it, and on we go with the discussion with Jerry Pippin, recorded, I believe, I'll have to check the precise date on that, but I believe it was recorded obviously before the passage of the Affordable Care Act. So it's been about 2010 or so. We'll get that straight later here. We'll see you on the Monday morning quarterback. We go to Jerry Pippin in our discussion as he was ready to go to New Mexico. And then we'll end this with the Rainbow Bridge.
Jerry, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good. So what are your thoughts on now is the time to act?
Well, I thought basically it was about as good as we could expect with the circumstances. I thought it was a dynamite speech, and I thought he laid out all of the objections, and the reactions are about what I thought they'd be. The Republicans are taking offense because he called them liars, but I think it's about time somebody did.
I agree.
So, as far as the public option, we'll see how that plays out. The House, of course, will pass it, probably. And the Senate won't, and they'll have to have some sort of compromise in the conferees, and it looks to me like it'll probably be for those who can't afford insurance any other way. And then they will expand from there. So you hear a lot of commentators saying the public option is dead. I don't think so.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Certainly not being pushed forward, but for it to even still be there at this point gives a lot of credit to the liberal wing of the party and also to President Obama himself. And laying out, to me, it seems to me that would be the ideal way for government to keep a lot of business in check rather than regulations. You just simply offer an alternative, and they love the market, then let the market take effect. So it's a way to keep everyone honest.
That's
and
correct.
We'll see how it turns out. He certainly, left the door open for it still to be there, despite what some people are saying.
Well, some people are obviously wishing the public option to be dead. Senator Backus had said himself that what he was looking at is basically the same thing as these health cooperatives that would be phased in and basically they are the public option. That would effectively do the same thing. Now, another thing is obviously when these two bills come to the House and the Senate bills come together, the House is waiting on the Senate to act, and Senator Baker said today that he's moving on with his plan with or without the Republicans, because they've been doing this for about a year, and obviously if they are sincere in the efforts, they would get together a bipartisan plan. Now, if the bipartisan plan doesn't come up, he has to just move on.
I thought it was interesting, the Republican response. They keep saying, we want to work with everyone, but then they don't.
Right.
They pretty well keep their heels dug into the sand and won't cross that line. And I don't think we probably could expect them to do it otherwise. After all, their constituency and their campaign funds and their whole ideology is really based upon resisting something like this. And it's time to stop resisting and get real, in my opinion. And I think President Obama's doing a wonderful job. He's walking a tightrope and doing it rather well.
Yes, he is. He is. And he brought it to the front about the distortions, like the abortion thing. That's not in any of those bills, and it will not be in any of the conferee's bills. That's very, very clear. They'll stay out of that business for what it's worth or what it's not worth, as one of those. Now, and he also talked tonight about these subprime plans that a lot of these companies have, with these very high deductibles and almost worthless plans. Now, with the new health care plans, some of those plans, employers would get a different plan at a lower cost to them, the so-called smaller businesses, and it would provide better health care for people than what they have right now. So when you talk about if a person has a health plan, could keep it, yes, but you wouldn't be keeping a sub plan that is virtually worthless anyway. And some of these plans are that, with very high deductibles, that people almost never use them unless they are in the medical center for prolonged periods of time.
Well, I agree with you completely. And maybe the idea of universal insurance, just like universal automobile insurance, works to a certain extent, but there is a downside. And the downside is that automobile insurance is much more expensive today than it was before. And so, I do think that President Obama intends to address this as we go along and continues to adjust this. And right now, the basic thing is to get something done and to get it started and then fine-tune it.
Right, and we're talking about a period basically of 5 to 10 years, so it's not something that happens the next day or the next month or even the next year. That these phase and tuning start to come in. Now, where things will start to kick in as they address some of the savings, like getting rid of Healthcare Advantage and those types of programs that are worthless, and medical centers charging for actually what they do, and not have especially older people in the hospital 3 or 4 different times because they never addressed it the first thing, and they can get reimbursed for those 3 different tours of duty, so to speak.
The insurance companies have a lock on all of this. They basically get a percentage of whatever they do or spend, and they keep the premiums and all of that. So that's where the real rubber will hit the road, so to speak, and exactly how forceful the government will be against insurance companies. But I liked what he said about it. In fact, I don't ever remember a president running against the insurance companies exactly like the way Obama has done. And if you look at the insurance period, there's it's a pretty good business. You don't take much of a risk.
True indeed. The pool of people is out there endless, and of course they, as they would say, sell many different products. Health insurance, life insurance, you name it, they sell it. Insurance that if you get sick or those kinds of things out there, they get the money, and you eventually get some benefit, maybe not. If you're not sick, you get very little out of the deal. And some of their other products, you tend to get less and less, because what happens many times, especially with their life insurance products, as people get to be older and their kids are gone, etc., they don't necessarily need it at that point in time. Many times, and the insurance companies hope this happens, they let the premiums lapse, and the insurance company have got all the money and moved on, with it.
Well, it's true, and I don't expect whatever health insurance program comes out of Congress and out of the administration, to be perfect. But I do think it will be a drastic improvement. And if it's not, I think Obama will go back in and probably retool it again.
He has talked about that. And
I take him at his word.
Well, he will attempt to do that. As you know, many people in the Congress are dependent on the insurance companies for their funds. In fact, in some states, even the Democratic Party used to run with the insurance companies. They funded their campaigns.
Well, and the insurance companies have known that this day would be coming for a long time. So they have bought and paid for their candidates.
No doubt about it.
And this is one of the problems I have with the Democratic Party.
Sure.
It's certainly not perfect. We call them Bush Lights, but what we're really saying is they're getting the money from the same areas and the same people that the Republican Party is.
Right, and that's something they haven't brought out about old Grassley in Iowa. A lot of people don't think of Iowa, specifically Des Moines, as an area where there are a lot of insurance companies. Iowa's lost a lot of population, flight from Iowa, no doubt about it. They still have some agribusiness there, but they do have in Des Moines a large contingent of insurance companies.
Yes, they do.
And that's what keeps old Grassley's, as they say, campaign machine rolling right along.
I think if you follow the pay-for-play hospitals and the clinics and the insurance companies and the medical manufacturers, and then, of course, the big pharmas, the pharmaceuticals,
right,
you'll see that this area probably rivals the military-industrial complex in contributions.
No doubt it does. Not only does it rival the military-industrial complex, but at the same time, their percentage of GMP that they consume is much more, actually.
Yes.
And that's what people don't understand. Now, I'm glad you brought up these device makers like the heart pumps, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that stuff is paid for by Medicare.
Well, Medicare has its problems, but it's so much better than some of the other things out there. Part of the problems, in my opinion, is the way it's administered with insurance companies doing the accounting. And I guess that was the only way Lyndon Johnson could get it through. I mean, this is not a new fight or a new debate. It goes back to at least Harry Truman on trying to get medical care.
Yeah, President Obama talks about that. John Dingell Sr., the old man Dingell, now in Michigan, Detroit area, but his father actually in 1943, I believe, was the first one to introduce that in healthcare into the Congress. So it's been going on a long, long time, actually. This fight has been going on. Now, back to that about the insurance companies and Medicare. Now, I know about the Medicare Advantage program. That was something Bush dreamed up, but they put people in that little loop with the insurance company getting that money.
I think if you check, you'll see that certain insurance companies have divided up administration duties in the regions.
I see.
Aetna has a certain region. Blue Cross Blue Shield has a certain region, and there's a 2 or 3% going right to the insurance companies for doing paperwork.
Right.
And then you get the pharmaceutical bill that Bush passed.
That's the one we're
that
talking
actually
about.
has been a pretty good bill for the people who needed it, other than the donut, the exemption. But it's been a bonanza for the drug companies.
Yes, it has.
And the insurance companies, because you have all of these. This is one of the problems I see with the stimulus. We do have some WPA type programs going on. But the problem is we're not doing it quite the same way. We're actually hiring construction companies and other people to do the work.
Right.
So here again, we still have that middleman, and it seems to be embedded in politics. And you and I have talked about it, and you know how I feel about it. I think it's all back on the broadcasters, and the media's back because of the rates.
I agree
politicians.
with you. I agree with you. All these middle types there have no place there. This is a scheme they got. They call it the public-private partnership. Well, the public is paying and the private is earning. Is basically what it all boils down to. The Leons of the world, your buddy there, he gets the contract. He hires some workers, and different situation, as you said, from the WPA, where it was a government program, and the workers were getting a government check. And
they're not now.
That's right, they're not.
I don't know if the government's hiring anybody straight out.
Very few, unless you're working
parts
actually,
of the military, but
right, unless you're actually working for the government itself. The government is hiring some people, and of course they've made some people redundant, laid some people off.
But many of those government workers are in supervisory capacities, working as
right, they are.
As a liaison between private enterprise and government.
Right, and
a whole layer of people there we don't need.
You're right, and there's no doubt about it. And one of the things that President Obama wants to get rid of, and most people don't understand that, in the government, the military sector, specifically the IT sector, Bush brought in hordes, thousands of so-called independent you would have these notebooks missing with these so-called independent contractors that are running around there. Well, these characters were setting up these little cubicles literally around, Arlington, Virginia, etc. They'd get a government contract, run out, find some software broker or what have you, and hire some people. And that was the extent of the business. I mean, they were literally working there, they had a telephone, etc., and they'd hire these independent contractors, virtually no supervision at all. They'd go pretend to do some job, and many times they'd belly up the contract, but they'd get the money off the top. And these characters made millions of dollars doing these schemes, and you had all these government contractors running around, on these projects for 3 or 4 or 5 years. Then the project ended up belly up. Contractors are gone. The departments are left with a system, as the thing now with the FBI doesn't function at all.
Well, let's hope it doesn't happen with the medical reforms.
I think gradually that will start to disappear, and the only reason it will start to disappear is just the sheer cost. The deficit is at a place right now where they have to do something. They're forced to. And that's why you will start to see some of these things disappear. But as you know, as long as there's a bureaucracy there and someone in that bureaucracy figures within a year or whatever they put new limits on, quickly you could get out of the government and get over to private industry and get that big job. They'll be looking out for someone else as soon as they can jump out of there. A good example with Tom Daschle. He's been out of the Congress, but he's in the lobbying business, and he's literally advising, quote unquote, both sides of the highway, if you can do that.
And that's been going on for a long time.
Yes, it has.
With a lot of people.
Yes, it has. But in recent years, they've been able to benefit much more. That's what Haley Barbour, that's now in Mississippi, he made millions and millions of dollars. And of course, he's obviously never quit, but being a lobbyist. And all these other birds that jump out. In fact, a lot of them actually are leaving the Congress, the Senate, and the Congress to go be lobbyists.
Well, it's really kind of a payback deal. You go into Congress, you vote their way for 4, 6, 8 years. They give you a job.
Right. Right. It used to be you were in the
it's
Congress
the
for 20
unspoken
years
rule.
and you could, get your job, like some of the Congress people, around your area there. After maybe 20 years of service, 25 years, now you can do 1 term, 2 terms. I think to get the congressional retirement, you got to have a total, I believe, Sempe McKinney has got it, I think 10 years. So, in other words, be reelected 5 times, or 2 times actually for the Senate, I believe, and maybe you can get a 1 6-year retirement. But anyway, you got it made. So your buddy Corbin has got his retirement basically made.
And the funny part about it, most of these guys are already millionaires.
That's right. That has changed.
Wonder why they even want the money.
Virtually everyone now, not everyone, but most of the people, virtually all in the Senate. Now, there's a few that are not already millionaires before they got there, but virtually all of them are. And even it goes into the Congress now that these people are very well off before they ever went to Washington. It used to be a guy went to Washington, got his basic salary and stuck around there for 20 years, whatever, and then got a lobbying job or whatever kind of job, and then actually started to make some money. But now the money is already there, and it's just sort of like adding on to the pie.
You're right. In this country, we do have an idea that, and I can understand where we got the original idea. You elect a rich man; he doesn't need the graft. But evidence has not shown that to be true, and this rich man you elect has lots of other rich friends who do make a killing.
That's right. Well, remember the progressive congressman, he's dead now, from your area there, that didn't have a lot of money, never made a lot of money, and unfortunately for him, he died rather young, so he never did make the money. Well,
and it's all relative to even some of these people we talk about that didn't have money. They live a pretty nice life. I mean, they're upper middle income anyway.
Oh, sure, they weren't living in log cabins.
Yeah, right.
I knew a lady out in Minnesota that when she was elected to Congress, she was a teacher. And she literally worked at one of the department stores during the holidays to supplement her salary before she could get her congressional salary going. And, because she didn't have any money. Basically, she was living, paycheck to paycheck. And finally, as the congressional salary kicked in, and then later, she ended up getting a divorce. But that was kind of beside the point. But there are very few cases like that are people that go to the Congress and, don't already have large sums of money. And I'm not talking about people that are employed. I'm talking about people that have large sums of money from their businesses or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And not $1 million, over $1 million. There's many of those people out there now, nowadays. Maybe your buddy there, Little Porky, he hasn't got the millions of dollars yet, but
I think he's doing okay.
I bet he is, too. I bet he
Talking
is.
about David Boren,
right,
president of OU.
Right.
And this is kind of been going on for some time. In fact, there's no kind of to it. It has been going on for some time. And, Obama trying to get universal medical coverage and to overhaul the medical system is actually, I'm surprised he's done as well as he has, because he's really goring a lot of people's oxes. Well, they make a lot of money off of this.
That's very true indeed. It's kind of
I have a couple of insurance executives that call me and they say, Obama scares the hell out of me, and what they're really saying is he's going to take my income.
Eventually, but they'll adjust, no doubt about it, and they'll come out on another scheme.
Actually, many of them will find out that they'll make even more money. It's kind of like...
That's true. Well, remember, they did the same thing with Medicare. I was a little boy at the time, but I remember the commercials, especially the radio was talking about socialism was coming and all that sort of thing, and all the doctors were up in arms, and once Medicare came in, all the doctors started making money they never figured they could ever make. And the hospitals. That's why the healthcare costs. Most people don't know that Medicare reimburses people, for these procedures on the average much better than the private insurers do.
In fact, there's not as much argument anymore.
No.
Especially in the last 5 or 10 years, the insurance companies have really become very proactive and telling doctors what they can and can't do, and the doctors seem to accept it, which is amazing to me.
Yes, it is. To a certain extent. That's the reason the American Medical Association, I did a program on them, endorsed President Obama's program.
Yeah,
because they've turned them into basically an emergency room program. Literally, that's what they're running. There's one doctor, the guy, a tall fellow out of Texas, a new president of the American Medical Association, and I remember dealing with them in Chicago. They weren't hard to deal with, easy to deal with, I should say, 25 years ago. But anyway, he was saying that a lot of doctors spend 4 or 5 hours a day doing nothing but talking to insurance companies.
That's true, and they hire staff.
Well, right. They have to hire 3 or 4 people.
The administration fees for administrative fees with secretaries and accountants and billing here and billing
and
there.
And coders that have to know all these
programs.
codes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a cottage industry there, but all these layers of cost add on. So you get a low-income senior, and all of a sudden, the person's in their 80s, they go to the medical center, the bill becomes thousands and thousands of dollars because they are allowed to stay for so many days. They leave, then they come back again. I mean, it's a revolving door on these people.
Right. That's one of the problems we're going to have with whatever we do for a government supervised or legal legislative move on medical or anything really is human nature being what it is. They'll figure angles around it. Like you were just talking about, sending people up to their maximum days and then waiting to 60 days and sending them back again, or whatever the terms are.
Yes, less than that. I know a fellow, his mother, I think, we'll say about a week or so, and then she was back in again for her stay, and finally, as he said, they kicked her out, and she got some rehabilitation or whatever at home. But the thing was, she was in a medical center there in Chicago 2 or 3 different times.
And I don't want to be cynical, but I am, and you wonder if they kicked her out and sent her home for home care. I bet they probably could have done that earlier, except they were getting paid much more money to keep her in the hospital.
Oh, sure, and they put her back in about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
and yeah, that's right.
And on this, I feel pretty good about what Obama said and everything, but I'm willing to bet you, in fact, I'll bet the farm right now, that tomorrow, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, and all of the other right-wing guys will not have changed their tune at all.
Well, no, they would not have. The writers are working on their shows for tomorrow.
It's not a time to celebrate.
No, obviously not, no.
It's going to be still a rough battle.
It's going to be a very, very rough battle, but I can feel sort of the twigs in terms of these so-called backdoor deals that are going to be cut by these various parties, and that's where this thing's going to end up. These deals that could have been cut 6 months ago, actually, will eventually be
they're making
cut.
Plenty of money off the status quo if you can delay it another year. Just like
sure.
They're delaying these things to put them out 4 or 5 years out.
Right.
Well, let's still got 4 or 5 years of gravy coming.
That's right. They'll get the gravy while the people still have any gravy to give them. And, with the large amount of people losing coverage, they're not making what they used to make. Insurance companies
you hear people like me of the liberal side knocking Obama sometime for trying to work with these people. But actually, he's a pretty intelligent fellow, and he understands that if you let them delay it a little bit and you still get your wish, it's better than not getting it at all.
That's right.
And
Lyndon Johnson did that with civil rights legislation. He got a little bit, of course, when it came time to get it, he twisted their arm and almost pulled it out of the socket. He said, "Look,
you got to do that." And I think that's kind of what he did tonight. He said that he wanted some sort of everybody be covered, and there had to be some sort of public option for people who couldn't get anything else.
That's right. That's right.
And so where a lot of people are kind of discouraged about that, I'm rather encouraged. And
Right.
I think we're going to get, a pretty good loaf of bread.
You get a loaf this year, and maybe another loaf next year. This is, you've been
Yeah, and we'll see how it works, and we know where the waste is going. It's going to these third-party people who are administering things.
That's right. Most people don't know about them. That's another layer of the so-called private bureaucracy that administers these things. There's an organization in Minnesota called United Healthcare, the largest corporation there, literally, and that's all they do is administer plans for businesses, etc. They are the third party. They make all this money off of that.
Yeah, they get a little percentage here and there.
That's right.
Kind of like theatrical agents.
That's right. Literally, third-rate PI. Yeah, and not only that, they literally bought this consulting company that the Republicans always talk about their studies. They own that thing, lock, stock, and barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, they're putting out their own studies to these people. So when Sarah Palin goes out there talking about health care, it's interesting because she's got the book deal. She can talk about it. She's already got paid. This is the thing with Limbaugh and all these other characters. They're writing those scripts right now for their tomorrow shows, the so-called talking points. It's about these fees. These fools don't think of these ideas. It's all written for them.
You how long is your show going to go tonight?
Our show. I'm going to cut the interview here in a minute. It'll go early.
The reason I ask is I got to leave for New Mexico in the morning.
Right.
And I've still got a couple of things to take care of tonight.
Right. Yeah. I'm the same.
But
way.
I wanted to take time to talk to you about this, and give you. I definitely give President Barack Obama 5 stars.
Well, it'll go. You ran about 30 minutes here. Annie ran about 10 or 15 minutes, and then his speech. So yeah, it will be a little longer than normal, but. Hopefully it'll be on the deal in the morning about 6 o'clock our time, Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully we'll have that out, and we'll
let us know.
And I'll talk to you by email on how we're going to put this up. And as usual, or what we do normally, I'd appreciate if you do the math if you have time, or you can email it to me later, and I'll put it up there. I'll put something temporarily up, and we'll get it straight later.
We'll do it.
Okay. Nice talking to you, Jerry. Okay. Nice talking to you.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about Obama's speech?
I felt Obama's speech. I read it. I didn't hear it live, but I read it. It was a very good speech indeed.
I heard part of it in the car, and the rest of it on television, and a little bit of here in the studio on the internet.
Right.
And. So I saw it from all angles.
Okay, and I'll see it and hear it before it's done, and if I get anything extra, we'll throw it in. It's nice talking to you, Jerry. Good night, and have a safe trip. Now, you're heading to New Mexico, I understand.
Yeah, I'm going to Angel Fire Ski Resort.
Okay.
Hey, it might snow even.
That's very possible.
Going to be a little cool.
It's possible.
It's pretty this time of year, though.
Yeah, I suppose the fall colors should start coming in and up in that altitude.
But I don't think it'll snow yet. But anyway, we'll be there broadcasting from Angel Fire Resort Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Anybody up there in northern New Mexico by Taos, come up and see us.
And you'll be talking about what now?
Everything.
Everything.
But there's a paranormal conference going on.
I see.
And so we'll be talking to real-life ghost hunters and psychics
and they can find you
UFO people as well, and then we're going to talk about some entertainers that live up there, and
that'll be interesting.
Even have a ski guide.
There is a lot of entertainers up there. I remember the guy that what was in the many years ago, the McLeod series did live there. I don't know if he does anymore. Dennis Weaver, I think it was his name.
Yeah, he's up there, I think, and.
Okay. There's a lot of them.
All kinds of people.
All kinds of people. High rent district. So they can find you at what, JerryPippin.com, right?
Yeah, right. And if you're up in that area, just come by Angel Fire Resort. We're up on the mezzanine, broadcasting. You'll see us.
All right.
It might be all set out. And the shows will be rolling out starting Friday night.
And incidentally, President Obama will be on the road this weekend.
Yeah, he's coming up to Minnesota.
He'll be in Minnesota at the Target Center, and it'll be
Why
full.
do you think he chose Minnesota? Is it a
because of the Mayo Clinic and some things they're doing at the Mayo Clinic. It's similar to the Cleveland Clinic. You can pack the crowd in. They are trying to do some similar things on a state level, but the problem is
just this side of heaven is a place called Rainbow Bridge. When an animal dies that has been close to someone here, they go to a place called Rainbow Bridge. There are meadows and hills for all of our special friends so they can run and play together. There is plenty of food, water, and sunshine, and our friends are warm and comfortable. All the animals who have been ill and old are restored to health and vigor. Those who were hurt or maimed are made whole and strong again, just as we remember them in our dreams of days and times gone by. The animals are happy and content except for one small thing. They each miss someone very special to them. Someone they had to leave behind. They all run and play together. But the day comes when one suddenly stops and looks into the distance. His bright eyes are content, and his eager body quivers. Suddenly he begins to run from the group, flying over the green grass, his legs carrying him faster and faster. You have been spotted. And when you and your special friend finally meet, you cling together in joyous reunion, never to be parted again. The happy kisses rain upon your face, your hands again caress the dead. And once more, you look into the trusting eyes of your pet, so long gone from your life, but never absent from your heart. Then, you cross Rainbow Bridge together.